What's up, Juventino? Welcome back to the AJC, your channel dedicated to Juventus. It is a victory show, all right, but one that has, again, we can't just get those beautiful victories. It's got to be unconvincing, and it's got to leave a little bittersweet feeling. I think maybe someone else was also feeling a little bittersweet about this victory, Lou. Oh my God, if I've ever seen This Is Fine meme live reenactment, this is probably it. Hey, brother? Look at
that. He's dying on the inside there. Look at him.
He's dying on the inside. He's dying on the inside. And the Panda Bear. Panda Bear looks just enthralled with the performance yesterday. This is the president. Yeah. My God, man. Get this guy out of here. No signs of life here. The lights aren't on, eh, Lou?
Yeah. He is the definition of a house with no lights on.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to have some fun, though, and discuss this matchup. And again, at the end of the day, it's 3 points. We absolutely needed the 3 points, but still a lot to look at from a progress perspective, a performance perspective, players as individuals, even coach, with some certain things that just don't seem to want to go away, that this team just can't break free from as far as bad habits and stuff. And we're going to take a look at all of it and analyze this game together right now. So what's up to everybody in the chat? We got Forza Juve, Matteo Camisa here. 3 points is 3 points, but we were dreadful. Oh yeah, we were. Orentino here saying it feels great to finally grind out an ugly win. That's a good sign. So glass half full there. We're going to look at everybody's, and we also had something that struck a nerve with some fans in terms of the celebration. And fans divided on that whole thing at the end of the game too as well. So we'll look at it all together. And still at the end of the day, it is a victory show. So we're still going to do it. And even if we let some bad feelings out, we're going to have fun around it. I guarantee you that, everybody. Get those likes up while you're in here. Lou, absolute pleasure having you on, brother. We got to get you on a little more often. And Omer should be joining us at any minute here. Again, the hairstyle, he just can't get right today. So let's give him a little bit more time. But Lou, how you doing, brother?
Good. I was just telling the chat, I was in jail medical with Milik. He wouldn't let me leave. But now that he's moved off to Poland, I can finally come back on the show. That's just that was it. That was why I haven't been on.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So Milik making way. The best contribution he's done this season. That's for damn sure. But yeah, that guy's off to Poland. We're going to have some fun here. Look, this game, wow. We will get into it. The news, headlines coming out of it, the same. It's around the same guys. Vlahovic heading for a sale. We've known this for quite some time. All right. We knew that was going to be happening. Kolo Muani, do you shell it out for Kolo or don't get too attached? Mixed feelings from the fan base all over the place, but the news is that there is something potentially that has been agreed upon. We will get into that. Cambiaso not back for the Champions League match. The early indications are that he will not be available for the first leg of the knockout playoffs against PSV. Okay. One last one. Duto Sport reports that Juve is considering making a swap deal involving Douglas Luiz for Xerxes. Okay. And we'll get into more on that after. We do have Omer making it in. About damn time. Great to see you, brother. Great to see you. Victory show.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone in the chat. Victory show. Yeah, may I just say, if winning is all that matters, then it's all that matters before all the bashing continues. Because we have some.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those are 3 points regardless. And let's first of all be happy about that. And the rest is just side talk, us clueless fellas. Judging professionals, yeah.
It's
Let's go.
It's 3 points, but it's the progress
Sour
that bothers.
taste.
It's the
Sour
progress.
taste.
Are we making progress? All right, and at the end of the day, we got some calls to make. We got some decisions to make. The club's got some interesting decisions to make all across the board, from players, from individuals, and that's why these things, even when they're wins, everything gets dissected, because there's a lot of key decisions that are coming up for Juventus. And that's why we look at all these things and we look at these wins. Because yes, at the end of the day, it's 3 points. We absolutely needed it, but my God, was that ugly. And it's the same issues that we've been having through the season. So it's right to be frustrated. Overall, this is the first consecutive set of victories since November. So yes, we're happy for the victory, but realistically, we know where we stand. And we have not gotten 3 wins consecutively once this year. So hopefully that changes in our next game coming up in Champions League. But we will look at this one, and we're going to kick things off with the lineup. You had Di Gregorio, Weah, Gatti, Vega, Savona on the left, Locatelli, Koopmeiners listed as your pivots, Nico Gonzalez, McKennie in the 10, Yildiz, and Kolo Muani. What was your initial gut reaction to that lineup, Lou?
Not really much of a surprise. I kind of was fine with it because you get a good win against Empoli, you build on that, you do it, you run it back again. It was nice to see Koopmeiners playing the holding mid position. Obviously, Savona at left back is a bit of a hot topic, but we really don't have anyone else. So I was fine with the XI. It was more than enough to get the job done.
Yeah. Omer, what was your initial gut reaction?
I saw Savona out there on the left, and it wasn't good. I don't like it. Didn't know, just try anything. I don't know, something about the balance in that lineup wasn't right for me.
I immediately had 2 things. Savona on the left was definitely one. The other was yet another game where I said in the pregame, Como's going to have 5 across the middle, and they're going to be super tight to that back line. McKennie up there makes no sense in this game.
Exactly.
Somebody that's got to be way quicker, way better technically, because it's going to be jam-packed. And again, McKennie will come up in this discussion later on because he ended up staying out at that role for a long period of time. So we're going to get into all that. But those were the things, and I agree with you. At the end of the day, it's balance and making sense of things. And then the subs come into question again. So we'll go through it. Like a bat out of hell, Como. Wow. Started this game. I said, Calvo, look no further for sponsors than Rolex. So all these guys can get a goddamn watch and they could start the game on time, okay? Because that is crazy. Como was all over us, bossing us to start this game. 10 minutes in, and my God, man. Okay, so he came up, not this guy. He didn't come up yesterday in the discussion, but Di Gregorio came up in the discussion. What a save on Nico Paz 10 minutes in. This was huge save to keep us level at that point. D-Gray was a monster. And the majority of the comments yesterday about the question of if there's any concerns with Di Gregorio, I had none. Everyone knows he was my shout over Carnesecchi. This was a massive save at that moment. The way they were pressing us to start the game. Huge stop. D-Gray was a unit. Absolute unit. Yeah. And Adam Kahn put that in the chat too here, that D-Gray was an absolute unit in this game. Massive save.
That's his forte, like his goal line game. That's where he's strongest. And yeah, possibly save of the season so far.
Yeah, that was huge. Absolutely huge. So we carry on. 22nd minute. You got, again, Como's just the second that they win the ball, they're turning, they're finding space. This was a rip from range, but very centralized, and Di Gregorio easily pairing it over his goal. But they're swarming us. 28th minute, Savona, yellow card, and he's looking rough. Like, he's just looking rough. to start this game. And it was at the point where some were like, I don't even know if he can hang on for the remaining minutes in the first half. That's how rough it was looking.
I thought he might have got something at the half an hour mark. Like he was not bad there. Like he just Savona, it's so frustrating because there's those rumors about him with the hernia, but he keeps playing, and now he's playing on the left. It's just like what
and this is one of my issues is that you could have avoided that. McKennie gives up some things at the left back role, but I mean, I'd have more faith. And it's just like, and it gets him out of the 10 role, which didn't suit him for most of us in the call. And I think it played out that way, that it really wasn't something we should have gone with. So it's a bit bizarre, but Savona was struggling heavily. So he took the early yellow. Obviously, we know we did end up waiting until that halftime, and we'll get to that. Out of nowhere, a little break off the right flank, we find Kolo Muani, and Kolo Muani goes the distance, takes it, drives immediately, realizes he's 1v1, beats his man, and absolutely rocks this thing. Keeper right over his head, for God's sakes, okay? But an absolute bullet. Kolo Muani is bringing what the others can't. And that's just creating something out of nothing. None of the other guys can do that. Nico, some have a shout for that. Yildiz, we haven't seen actually lead the line or be up top, but as far as strikers go and the guys playing out and out nines, nobody else has been able to create out of nothing, and it's saving our asses as far as team play goes.
Imagine Vlahovic trying to do that. He looked like Tony on like the pickleball court, like knees and no knees and everything, flailing around unathletically.
Even Nico had some counterattacks that fell flat at his feet that were just like, what are you doing? What like? But Kolo's bringing that element that none of the other guys are, and it's just highlighting. I think it's actually highlighting more how broken the team game is, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He finishes half chances, which is pretty rare for Juve. Recently, like he needs the ball outside the area and he can make a goal out of it, and we've been kind of lacking that because no one else seems to be able to do that for the past 3 months. Yeah. So that's refreshing. Kind of reminds me of Trezeguet. Like he's not really involved in the build up and in the movement and stuff, but half chances are enough to make an impact on the game. Otherwise, I don't see him doing anything else special.
Yeah,
it's just ending moves, which is super important. For us.
He had like, I think it's like what's the number of shots he had? At one point yesterday, he had like 4 goals on 5 shots. Like I think after he scored that first goal, it was like 4 goals on 5 shots, or like 5 goals on 6 shots.
He has 5 goals on 5 shots, I think.
Is that it? Yeah.
I think he's legit like 100% shooting right now. It's crazy.
Insane.
Like it's ridiculous. So he broke the record, which was actually held by Christian Piątek for first 3 games in Serie A in scoring, and now he's done it, and he's broken that. It was Piątek at Genoa, of course, but the dude's just on absolute fire right now. When you get to the way the half finished, funny enough, I got a lot of messages on my prediction because we're going to go 1-0 up. It's Kolo Muani. We're going to be equalized in the first half, and then we're going to win. But I did call a second half substitute to score and earlier in the half. And I definitely said nothing about it being unconvincing. All right, but I was pretty damn close. This goal that we allow. So Koopmeiners here. You gotta know the angle. Like Cutrone's got the angle on you. You're trying to carry it out. And Gatti made some comments in the post-match in regards to it, that we were looking at it, and Lou and I kind of had mixed opinions, because it was like, well, is he taking a shot at Koopmeiners, or is he taking a shot at what we try to do and how we try to play? Because he simply said, I come from the school of, like, play it safe, get the ball out when something's in jeopardy. So is he taking a stab at Koopmeiners there for trying to carry out of a situation where he had no angle and coughs it up and then we concede? Or is he taking a shot at Malta and this thing with always playing with the ball, even at the back under adverse situations and scenarios? I don't know, but at the end of the day, we were just playing out of the back from a defensive scenario, and this is how we lose 3 guys on the 6-yard box immediately in that scenario. It's the same shit over and over. It's crazy.
Top of the screen there, Berto, like at the bottom left, is that Savona down there? Like, who's supposed to be playing left back? Look
Like,
how high up.
dude, Koopmeiners has just lost that ball from a defensive scenario where they were about to shoot on goal. It's like, how are we all, like, I don't understand it. It's like we are just completely lost. And it's over and over and over and over. But a guy makes a mistake, we can't bail him out. And it happens over and over. And it's a different suspect every time. Now it's Koopmeiners.
Oh, it's a frustrating goal.
Yeah.
Super frustrating. Right on the stroke of halftime. Great for them, for the mentality going into the second half, which was pretty evident. Going right off. Again, those. It's not even like personal defensive mistakes. Someone got beat inside the area or whatever. It's just lack of personnel. Everyone's running forward the minute we take the ball. I don't know, it's broken. It's like we're only aiming for the counterattacks, for the fast counterattacks, especially when we're suffocated the way we were by Como. No other than Como. It's frustrating to keep trying doing that and basically acting like the smaller team. Because the game has been reduced for me to long balls and counterattacks. They simply gave up on building from the back and trying movements, double passing, whatever. It's mostly long balls and counterattacks.
So we get to halftime, and we'll talk about the long balls in this game because that's what it essentially alluded to. But halftime, we hit 1-1 immediately. I think everybody's agreeing. You get Savona out of there. The way that half was going, the way the play was going, he's on an early yellow from 28. You take him out. We make that change. Lloyd Kelly. Not Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld, okay? But Lloyd Kelly comes in. I immediately said, do not make that. Like, I was like, the guy literally just got off a plane. He's had one training session with the team. You've got McKenny that is out of place up higher. You don't have to go to that degree. So for me, I didn't like it. I just thought, bring in Bangula, slot Yildiz over to the 10, and put Wes at the left back role, and let's call it a day and go from there. What were you guys thinking about Lloyd Kelly getting called into this one?
Man, I felt bad for him because he just, like, one train session, you could see it on the pitch. He looked a little just like out of place a bit. Como was all over us in the first half.
Yeah.
I understand maybe the idea of, like, if you're putting West back there, it is a little bit of a liability. We probably would have conceded again. I mean, we almost conceded a couple times there with Lloyd Kelly in there. So I understand the logic, but I do get the counter argument, which would have been like, hey, we needed life up top, move someone to the 10 and try to create something, go win the game. At hindsight, it's different, but I understand both sides of the coin there. I felt bad overall for Lloyd Kelly, though. That clip of him with the referee, I think Tony tweeted about it, but immediately in the second half, he gets a foul called on him and the ref's yelling at him. And his eyes,
no idea what he was saying.
That just kind of summed up that move in the nutshell for him, because he looked kind of confused and
he had no idea what that ref was saying. Like, that, this guy's so fresh, he hasn't even picked up Buongiorno. Okay,
yeah.
So like that's where we're at. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it was and another part of it is, again, to how the game was going. If it was going a bit better for us, a bit smoother in performance, I could be like, okay, but we put him in a pretty tough spot.
Yeah.
Now, that does not alleviate him of his performance, which we will get into after. But yeah, your thoughts on that one, Omer? Kelly coming in.
Honestly, poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Tough situation to go into. He looked like someone who hasn't played for 6 months. In a professional way, was out of pace. He was out of position. He didn't seem comfortable at all. Honestly, I don't even blame him. It was pretty idiotic to put him in there.
Yeah.
Like
For
a
some
horrible
people,
decision.
like roast beef here, it's just simply the name Lloyd. He just doesn't want someone named Lloyd. No offense to the Lloyds of the world, all right? But he just doesn't want someone named Lloyd there.
I
Look,
did have one thing on the first half to add. Just overall, one thing that really frustrates me about this Juventus, this is the biggest match Como's had in like forever. Like they haven't been up in Serie A since like 2003. So like they're gonna come out, the stadium's gonna be fired up, the team's gonna be fired up. They're an ambitious project. They're playing Juventus. That's the biggest brand in Italy. And you have to understand that your coach has to understand this. Your players got to understand this. They're going to come after you like wildfire. And that's what they did. And we were not ready for it. And to me, that it's a knock on your players because of their mentality. It's immaturity. It's arrogance. And it's a knock on your coach for not establishing a culture that understands that.
And we'll dive more into that in the overall, but you're absolutely right.
That was the first half I wanted to make.
We get to the second half, and it's like Lloyd Kelly coming in, and he's not the one that has me ready to smash my keyboard at work, because it's actually Gatti, who I don't even know what he's thinking on this ball. It's like a side heel click thing. Like, I don't even know what he's doing. Attack the ball. Like, get rid of it. What are you doing? And he lets it bounce. It goes behind it. He misses it. They're in clear. They end up getting a shot, and it's another stop from Di Gregorio, saving us from sheer stupidity yet again. Infuriating. So we get by there. Now we get to substitutions. 61st minute, you have a double sub of your pivots. It's Luca and Koopmeiners both out. Thuram, Luiz both in. Your thoughts on the double switch at the pivot role? We'll start with Omer.
Pretty rare to see that.
Yeah.
Like the two midfielders get subbed out. I felt Thuram was severely missed during the match up until that point. But to be honest, there was nothing. I mean, you can change whoever. There was nothing between Di Gregorio and Kolo Muani. Like, they were the guys shining. The rest in between, everyone could have come off. Everyone was having an awful day. Absolutely awful. It would not have been my first substitution. Definitely not both of them at the same time. But something had to change. Like, I didn't really mind it.
Yeah. And Lou, your thoughts on both of them at the same time?
I criticized Mota a lot in our chat. I respected the move because everyone was bad in that game. Both those guys, I thought, and Locatelli, I'll say this, he's been very good this year, but he kind of was a little shocking at times in that game. He conceded a couple bad corners. Koopmeiners was awful. And the rarity of that substitution, send a message, take him off. Like, hey, you're playing crappy today, you're coming off. Like, I respected that move. Could maybe take him less off instead, but it's kind of just like more the message, the optics of it. You're playing like crap, you're coming off. Like, that's
I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's risky business to change two pivots both at the same time in a game. It always is. And it's, like Omer said, very rare. Can you justify it? Yeah, you could justify both based on performances. I still probably would have broken it up a bit and maybe went with Cope had to go. Cope had to go. But McKennie still up there was kind of this thing. And I also, again, in focusing on adjustments, and I've said this an insane amount of times this season, it goes beyond personnel as well. We were getting blown up and overrun. So as bad as those guys were, they were completely overrun by Como. you have to give your guys better shots, and we needed to flood the middle. And maybe a shift formationally to just spread us out in the middle. If it had to be more of your 4-5-1, call it whatever you needed, but flatten out with 3 mids, get your outsides even a little closer, make us a little more compact to be able to just get the ball more and be able to retain it a little bit more and then go from there. There was nothing adjustment-wise to the plan. And our plan has been lacking more than anything before we even get into execution. Like, we can pick apart the players, absolutely, for a lot of execution errors. But it was few and far between those scenarios, and that's more because of the plan. So I see a lot of issues where it's not coming together from the touchline to the pitch. But we'll get into that a little bit more. As far as the subs, you could justify those ones. But McKennie still at the 10. No adjustment in just giving us some type of numerical help. Flatten out in the midfield. That continued. 67th, you have Imbangula for Yildiz. Any thoughts on that one, boys?
No, Yildiz was horrible.
He didn't do much of anything. I honestly, I kind of felt for him because he's, again,
support. I mean,
always outnumbered. Always outnumbered that game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is one of the downsides with Cambiasso not being on the left. It's easy to take Yildiz out of games. You just double mark them. If you put 2 guys there, like, there's no one ever around them.
From Savona to Kelly, it was completely easy because neither one of them offered anything advanced. Like, we were just overrun and we were just leaving that back flat. There was no help. Chico in for Nico in the 76th minute. I might have tried that sooner, getting Chico in there, because our game was left to rely on individuals pulling something out, right? 79th minute. Was this a handball, boys?
Hell no.
No, absolutely not. No.
So, l'arbitro Nick, potential handball. On this play, Gatti runs side to side with the Como attacker. Touches the ball with his hand as he goes shoulder to shoulder with the opponent. Here we have a few considerations. One, was Gatti's arm movement and position justified based on how he is leaning into the player to make a challenge? I would say yes. We aren't thinking about arm position so much anymore, rather than was his arm justifiable in comparison to the entire body movement. Two, we also want to think about the consequence of the touch on the ball. Gatti's touch did likely make it difficult for the Como player to control the ball. Personally, I think this is a borderline situation where you win some and lose some. Usually in Serie A, we see almost every touch with the hand punished. So I was surprised to not see this given. I actually was surprised too.
I didn't think it was a handball, but I understand that. Like, I was surprised it wasn't called because they call everything, now in Serie A. But, like, one of the things that really annoys me about the handball rule, and I wonder this with VAR, when you watch any handball in slow motion, it automatically looks like he's guilty, right? So you if you watch it in live, like, it's not a handball to me. But then you watch it in slow motion and it makes it look worse.
And that's what VAR is doing, though, because when you look at it, though, the ball is right there. It's not like the ball has deflected or done anything and hitting the arm. It's him moving his arm and contacting the ball. And that's why, for me, if Juve didn't receive this on the other side, I probably would be pretty pissed, to be quite honest. I would have been like, more often than not, you guys call those. But I do understand it's a borderline situation. It's interesting to hear everybody's thoughts and whatnot. And even Suarez says, I would be infuriated if Juve didn't receive that on the other end. But the majority here believe no. Hell no, no PK. There you go. But yeah, that's one of those ones where even with VAR, it's a judgment call. And we got...
even if that's the case, then it's not a handball. Even
what's the case?
If you need VAR, and with VAR, it's still unclear, and some would give it and some won't. It just isn't a penalty. Eventually, he sort of barely brushed the ball with his fingertips. Is that
Well, he
what?
needed VAR number one because of where the ref was
Mhm.
standing. Both players were covering the ball.
Mhm.
So he had absolutely like no look at it. So they're lobbying hard and VAR is making the call and they're looking at these two considerations. And hey, they say at the end of the day, I honestly don't know because we don't have that
I think
transparency.
I think it's a soft penalty if
Yeah, but
given. I
soft or
wouldn't
not, rules
expect
are
that.
rules. It's the same as a foul. Soft
I
or
wouldn't
hard
expect
foul,
that.
a foul's a foul.
I think
No,
in
no, a
general,
foul is not a foul. A foul that would be called in the center of the pitch would not be called as a penalty.
But we
There are
always say
levels
that
to
that's
it.
bullshit because
No, I
soft
don't think
or
it's
hard, a
bullshit.
foul is a foul. The fact
I
that they
don't
don't
think it's
keep
bullshit.
consistency in there is
No,
one of the issues. And that's exactly
I
what Nick
disagree.
said. Nick said the exact same thing. He says the consequences of this
Mm-hmm.
have to be looked at as well in terms of did this player
course.
was not able to actually control the ball because of this, and also
Mm-hmm.
obviously the factor that it's a PK. So it's not clean, but we say this all the time, and Skanga does as well. We're all,
Mhm.
hey, whether it's
Sorry,
soft
I
or
disagree.
not, because we've seen soft PKs, but
Mhm.
it's a foul. Whether it's
We also
shitty and
seen
chintzy,
we also seen brutal PKs not
you
getting
go by
called.
rule. You go by rule.
Yeah, but the rule
The
is
biggest thing is
unclear.
consistency, Matt.
The rule is unclear. Did he take? Was it otherwise a Stonewall goal? Like
The
if
problem is
Gotti doesn't.
consistency. VAR
Okay,
has
but
zero
I'm not talking about.
consistency.
But I'm not talking about consistency. I'm talking about weak
I'm
penalties
talking
getting
about
called.
it.
That's a weak penalty, no matter how you give it. That is a
It
game
doesn't
turner.
matter weak or not. If it happened
And
to us
it
and
doesn't matter to me.
it changed the course of the ball to where our striker Kolo Muani could no longer
Mhm.
do it, I would have been upset. And I'm talking
I
about
would be
consistency
shocked.
because the
I would be shocked if
consistency
it would be
with
called.
VAR is
Yeah,
shit.
I get the
Always
consistency
has
shit.
been. It always
It
will
is
be
shit. In
because
my
of this
opinion,
gray area. VAR
out of
is
my
junk.
opinion, this shouldn't be a penalty, not for Juve, not for anyone else. It's a gentle tap with the tip of the fingers.
It doesn't
Green-
matter.
I think it does.
The main
I think
issue
it does.
here is that rule is ridiculous. It's not really clear. The
Now
handball
we
rule-
have to dissect handballs as to how hard he touches it. No, it's silly. It's silly. Look, we got away with it. No call, or we didn't get away with it. Right call. Either way, we're playing with fire this fucking game. Okay, 90th minute, well 86th minute, we get a PK on an aerial. This one is clear cut. This is clear cut. He beats the keeper to the ball. Gatti actually attacks this ball well. He heads it, and he gets smoked for his troubles. There's nothing really here. Penalty 89th on a set piece for Juve. This is from L'Arbitro Nick. We see Gatti go up to the air header, win the ball, and followed by Como's keeper striking him in the head. Many people were saying keepers are always protected. Why not in this instant? Well, L'Arbitro Nick says the key difference here is Como's keeper never touched the ball at any point. So anybody that it would have only been Chihuahuas out there on Twitter or whatever that would have been fighting this thing, okay? And they were. Oh, they were. And he says, yeah, the keeper never touched the ball at any point. Gatti clearly won the ball and then got hit. This is no different than a player lunging for a ball on the ground, missing the ball, tripping the opponent instead. A player challenged for the ball, missed, hit the opponent, clear penalty. Kolo Muani steps up. We got into a discussion over PKs, Alex P and myself, and he said, thank God this guy doesn't have a goofy run-up. It just runs up and hits the damn thing. I hate those stutter step PKs. I actually think they should be banned because it's also ridiculous for keepers to have to deal with that. But anyways, Kolo steps up, has his brace, saves our blushes, and we still had a corner kick go off the top of the bar, by the way, to finish this game off, and that was Como getting the header because we can't have nice things and just see this one out. Wow. What a finish. From getting ready for the Tifosi to throw all our guys into the lake at Como there to escaping with a 2-1 win. I don't even know. So, again, the celebration, this even struck a nerve with some fans. Some guys running off the bench, selling hard, and it was just like, guys, do you realize that you escaped embarrassment on a team that's 2 points out of like fighting for relegation? Like, do you realize that? So that even struck a nerve. Yeah, be happy you won, etc. But it's like, to that degree, everybody was fired up because this was a dog shit performance. But your guys' overall thoughts, the Selly, if you cared how hard guys were jumping off the bench, whatever, where are you at? We'll start with Lou.
Well, first, just the celebration. I mean, come on, guys. It's Como. Like, I get you're happy, but like, there's it's just they look like the 11-12 team celebrating the Scudetto in Cagliari. Like, it's like they're not in the title fight. But I think the celebration, more than anything, underlines the amount of pressure these guys are feeling to like that they're not getting results. And I think it's more of a frustration to finally getting a back-to-back result, which we haven't seen since November, which is crazy. Yeah. Overall, this performance sucked. We won, but the performance was terrible. And it was a really like big black eye, in my opinion, because at least in the Empoli game, the game switched. Juventus played a little bit better at the hour mark. They got that great goal from Kolo Muani. They were playing really good football. The balls over the top were really good, patterns of play, passages, and the goals were great. There's nothing in this game. It was, a individual brilliance from Kolo Muani and a penalty that kind of wins us the game. We never really did anything. We didn't have any type of, play style that you can look and be like, hey, this makes me feel better. Like, these back-to-back wins are different than the last back-to-back wins, right? Yeah. There wasn't any progress. The positive thing I will say from a player's perspective is they were able to, grind out a very poor performance. I think that's something, if not a little bit, but I don't think it solves our problems necessarily going into PSV.
Yeah. So T97 saying, I feel like let them celebrate to build some confidence and team bonding because we won't be celebrating too often versus top sides. That's not promising or a good way to, I think, look at things. They need to celebrate. This is a team without champions, so they are starting from the ground up and learning to win, etc. When you win, you can celebrate. Yeah, I think there's degrees, and I think our champions over time show that this is a lack of, I think it's a lack of mentality. I think it's a sign of it because if you got guys running off the bench, like you got guys on their knees, putting their arms up like we hoisted a trophy, we walked into a relegation side and an undeserving win. I'm happy for the fight. I'm proud for the fight and everything, but I think they need to, like, are they realizing where they're actually at? This goes back to when this team is talking about they have zero understanding of why things aren't transmitting onto the pitch. Look, happy for the 3 points, but realize you were not good. It's almost feels wrong. That's how I look at it. In the games I've been a part of, whenever I played competitively and we snuck a game out that we had no business winning, it felt almost wrong to really throw your arms up and be like, yeah. It's like, what? To each their own. Omer, dive in with your overall thoughts on the game.
Well, those were 2 hours with 2 happy moments. The rest was just basically a waste of time. But beyond that, let's give Como some credit. They were super prepared for the match. They handled the wet pitch a lot better than Juve, and they prepared for the match a lot better. Mota kind of played into their hands with players out of position who seemed clueless as to what their role is. But eventually we got the win. Okay, fine, celebrate. Whatever, celebrate excessively if that's what helps you feel better about yourself. I mean, we know, come on, they know they played bad. they know they salvage the win somehow, which is mainly it's fine. Okay, sometimes you have bad days at the office, and you need to know how to win those games as well, which is
Yeah.
important. But it's not a bad day at the office. It's a regular recurring theme with this
Yeah.
team. The way they played, they can't match the intensity of the other team. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, against Empoli, it was kind of the same until that red card. You just couldn't keep up. And eventually, Empoli got super tired, which was the same case with Como. Like the last 20 minutes, they were extremely tired and they just couldn't keep up the intensity. So, yeah, fine. A win, 3 points. Let's get the hell out of there. And Eindhoven are up next. The celebrations are a spectacle, nothing more.
Yeah. I'm going to say this because it just comes down to point of view. So for those, even the comment here by T97 Keeper, it's a stepping stone. I agree long-term shouldn't be celebrating, but this team is in rebuilding and need to start somewhere. This is where I look at it differently because you set the bar as to where you want them to be and you get them there. You don't need a stepping stone even for these things. Like that's just, again, it's point of view. That's all I'm saying. At the end of the day,
do you feel confident?
At the end of the day, I wouldn't go into the locker room and be like, guys, why are you celebrating? I would be like, guys, by the skin of our teeth, heads down, and we get back to work because we obviously have way too much work to do for February 7th. And it's just point of view. To each their own.
On the point of view, this is like, there's a famous Sir Alex Ferguson story. United's playing West Brom, and his team talk was, "You're Manchester United. You're supposed to win this. Just win the game." That's what you're expected to win this game. That's the standard, right? It's not a stepping stone because this win, like in Juventus, this is the bare minimum is to win against a team like this. That's it. You did the bare minimum.
For me, it's a sign. It's a sign of how much they're actually feeling. And when I see them react like that, my immediate thought is that they're not prepared to be at Juve.
No. There's no standards.
And that's why it struck a nerve with me, everybody. Because I don't want to see them react to that degree excessively, because to me it shows me that they're not mentally, and even though we all have been saying it and we know it and it's coming through games, it's frustrating to me because it's like, take that next step. It's no different than earlier on in the year we drew after playing absolutely garbage to Milan, and Kalulu standing there in the microphone saying this is a good result, and Kefren Turam is standing there saying absolutely not. We played terrible. It's about getting them February 7th to be mentally at the thing that they've realized where they should be through all of these mistakes, through 17 points and all that. And it's just like this minor little indication for me that I don't know if the growth is there. Now, that's fine if it isn't. I will give them credit overall this game for the fight. And I did. My post, Matt, what I said, at least you showed the fight. You got after it. 76th minute, around there, Como, finally, the energy faded a bit. And we did show some life. Luis actually showed quite a bit of tenacity, a little bit of drive. Thuram was needed. Chico was trying to do something. It looked like a mess strategically, systematically, but we did push, we did fight, and I give them credit for that. Ultimately, they found the result in a game that they absolutely did not deserve. But it's this suffering thing too that I think that they were almost programmed to put on a higher level, because it's like, oh, that's us. We're able to suffer and we're able to find these victories. But you celebrated those excessively against big sides, and and I think overall the frustrations in this game carried over to those that, and not just this game, but this season carried over to those that had an issue with the celebration. The players are not at fault for celebrating, okay? It's just frustrations, and I'll admit even my own for this entire year, that are boiling over. Because where's the growth? And this game showed me that. From the touchline, from man management to game management to decisions to potentially some subs to the play. Como came out guns blazing. Nowhere near matching it. Nowhere near matching it. No plan, no structure to combat it, and no changes in the second half. It's the frustrations that I have. Though that's where I'm at. That's it.
I mean, do you feel confident going against other teams from the same area of the table? Like bottom table after that win?
I honestly had this thought yesterday, and Lou knows I said it, and it's a damn shame I'm thinking like this because I don't know what it is anymore. But like, would this team benefit from dropping out of a competition to just be able to match energy with these teams that don't play multiple comps because we have to win these games and we're getting overrun by them? Anytime a team doesn't even play magnificently but just runs us hard, we look terrible.
I think
I don't want Juve to do that, obviously, but like, what is it?
I think, and I've said this repeatedly in our chat, and I gave a bunch of people grief about it yesterday, but you're when you have a team that's that young, right? You don't have senators in the locker room, right? Like even Locatelli is not really a senator per se. Like he's never been the captain before, right? He's your oldest player, and it's questionable whether he's a leader or not. Your coach has to take that. The coach has to set the standards there. He has to create the standards for the senators to kind of employ, right? Conte did that very well when he took over Juventus. He set a standard for the club that was ingrained in the core of players that carried it for the next decade, right? Motta needs to do that because it's not coming from the top. Our upper management is kind of non-existent other than Giuntoli. Like they're not setting that standard. Your coach has to set that standard. And for me, that's the big issue with this is that who is setting the standard at Juventus? Like Juventus is expected to win against Como. You know that Como, this is the biggest game Como's had in 20 years. Juventus is the biggest brand, like I said before. You know they're going to come out hot. A lot of those small teams do that, especially the newly relegation sides. They come out, they're excited, they want to come after you, and they want to pull out even a 1-1, just something, right? They're trying to put a show on. You as Juventus coach, you need to tell your players that you need to set that expectation so the players are ready for that. And as a player, it is your job to be ready for that. To be fair, the players are at some blame for that. But if your coach isn't setting that standard, especially with a young group of players, they're never going to learn that. And that for me is the bigger issue. Whereas even if we drop out of another competition, is Motta going to be able to set that standard? He's like, when we go to play Lecce away in March or whenever that game is, like, is Motta going to be like, hey guys, like you had a week off, we're going to like come out strong? Yeah. Based on the history, we have a week off. We haven't really seen that, so I don't think anything will change because no one is setting a standard there for these guys.
Yeah. It's tough. Everybody's got their own thoughts, their own opinions, but at the end of the day, it's got to be moving in the right direction. Are we?
It's
fair to question that. It's fair to ask that.
Juventus this season, I don't understand like how someone could be like, hey, like I'm confident about our project. Like, what is our project? Our project player wise, yeah, some of the recruitment, obviously the big signings have been poor, but the smaller signs, the Conceiçãos, the Tarams, the Kalulus, even Kolo Muani are like really good signs. But in terms of just like how this team plays and the results they get, like what if you're someone who thinks the project's going in the right direction? I don't understand like what you're watching because it's not even like their play is good. And I thought that Mutt, Berto's favorite guy from Tutto Sport, Guido, who shout out Max Allegri for trying to rip his ears off, still a legend for that. But he did sum it up pretty well today that Juventus this season, when they don't concede, they don't score. And when they score, they concede a ton. There's no if or in between. There's no just easy, hey, 2-0 win. There's no, even 1-0 win. I take a 1-0 win in a heartbeat nowadays. Like, none of that. So, and we don't even see it for stretches, right? We just see it's either 0-0s or 2-2s or games where we concede.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the progress? At the start of the year, you could say, hey, good defensively, haven't put it together offensively. I think when I was on the show at the start of the year, we were like, man, if we put this together offensively, like maybe we'll be a good side. And now it's the reverse, right? So what's the progress we're showing? Like, what is if we finish fourth and Mota takes the job next year? Like, what are you excited to build on? There isn't really much to build on. That's my thing with this. Like, you can't objectively say we're going forward. We're just hanging on to a win against Leipzig and City, which, hey, we played phenomenal against City, but like, is that enough? Like, that's the thing to me.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
Look, I mean, there's not a lot to build on. Half of those guys are loans anyway. I'm assuming we won't see a lot of those faces next year anyway, so it doesn't feel like a build, like part of the project. A lot of it feels like just patches, and because of injuries and stuff. But Juve do seem clueless right now, and just like last season, like if you look at the results, a lot of 1-0s, and just by looking at it, you say, no, you have a strong defense. They barely concede, but watching the matches, you knew it was not sustainable. You knew it was going to break at some point, and we're kind of more riding our luck than actually playing good defensive football. And it feels the same right now. Every win feels like, just nothing that was achieved.
Yeah.
Right? It was something that was kind of presented to us by the other team. And I'm not feeling anything like positive to grasp onto and say, yeah, that's the way forward. And it's February.
Yeah.
It's too late for that now.
It's really, really difficult. And I've been very vocal about it. And it's just, Lou and I have agreed for quite some time now that it's just like, it's always something. It's always something. You either don't start on time, you waste one half of a game, you're struggling to create, or you're conceding garbage goals, or it's both. Like, it's always something. Where do we actually look to move forward? We were a lot closer early on because it's early in the season, but we have, I believe, regress. But what's the biggest thing about that? What is the biggest obstacle that prevents this team from making progress? And that's where the discussions obviously start to broaden up over player quality, over mercenaries brought in, over Malta, etc. That's where they start to divide. Everybody's going to have their say on this. For me, it is both. It's always going to be both in a team. But Malta right now, and you see more and more coming on the chat here, it's hard for me to sympathize. And I said yesterday on the pregame show, Giuntoli gets a lot of shit, but I think he's the one dealing with more restrictions in the grand scheme of things than Thiago Motta has. If you're telling me that Thiago Motta's side that he's been given, even with the injuries, to February 7th, can't put together like a full 90 minutes more than twice a season or 3 games that we're talking about, that's a problem for me. There is no balance. Everybody talks about nice play. They talk about, dinosaur ball, terror ball, whatever it said. Look, yeah, it's about results, and I don't care how you play, but you have to have a team looking like a team. A lot of the games, and now into February, it's like a mishmash. It's like a mishmash.
Well,
and
it feels like Mota is doing. I mean, first of all, it seems shell shocked. like on the sidelines. He was a bit. It was different at Bologna, the way he acted on the
Yeah,
sidelines, and
I
it
Omar.
seems like he's doing like the bare minimum. Like, okay, I have a system. It's just 4-2-3-1, and there's no consideration for players' abilities and their personal and what they can bring to the match. I mean, you don't slot in Savona in the Cambiasso role and have him act the same way Cambiasso does. You need to change it personnel wise, not even system wise. I see a general system, and everyone is kind of getting shoved into positions, and that's about it. That's where it ends in terms of game management, formation, man management on the pitch. I
Yeah.
see nothing. It's just those are the roles that I want. Wherever you play, you have to do that specific role.
We
Um,
sorry,
Go
Omar.
ahead.
We changed 16 players. Like, do people
Mhm.
not realize like how good that is from Gentoli's perspective? We changed 16 players, and we still can't put players in the right position. Like
The
16,
argument also, the flip side, some are arguing, is that there was too much change and that it kind
maybe,
of affects some
That's
chemistry
possible.
too.
but also some of that is because our coach had a lot of the final say. You know, Rugani, Danilo, even you go back like Tech, a lot of those people kicked out by the coach, right? You know, like Danilo halfway through the season, listen, he was terrible for a lot of the season, right? But halfway through the season, you don't have a left back to cover Cambiasso, and you kick your only left back out. Like, that's, maybe you're right, it's too much change, but that was decided by the coach. Like, that was his optics. That's where, to me, like, talk about player quality, right? These guys, Douglas Luiz and Tino Koopmeiners, don't forget how to play football overnight, right? I mean, how many times we see Koopmeiners in the 10 rule this year not work?
Yeah.
We've been talking about since November, and we
We
still
gotta
see part of
we
it.
do gotta get into performances for sure. And Apex just believe, like, he's like, are we going back to being like competing for Scudettos, or is this management going to looking to turn us into a mid-table team? I've said this numerous times, like, we are almost home free with the numbers, and that excuse leaves very, very soon, hopefully, knock on wood, this summer. And then we'll see. We'll see what the ambitions are, because right now you've got a pie, as I explained yesterday, and you've got standards culture, you've got sporting side, and then you have financial. And so far, the biggest piece of pie, while we can get the numbers right, has been financial, and those other things have been sacrificed. Now we could start to level out, hopefully after this summer, and then we'll see what the true intentions are. But that panda bear that is pretty much sleeping at the games, he ain't gonna do anything. And he's not vocal. They're non-existent. They mean nothing. They were temps from day one. We called them temps from day one. And now I'm starting to shine the light on Elkan, because if your team is this close, and we'll see this summer what happens and who the names are, but if if a certain player's name comes up, the work that we've done over these past few years, and if Yildiz' name pops up for a sale, that's where I get pissed off with ownership, because then I think I do question your ambitions wholeheartedly, because for the amount of work we've done to get the numbers to where they are now, if you bring in 6 billion in revenue annually, and you can't pony up to just say, look, I want to stop the bleeding. You've done enough work up until this point. I'll take you the rest of the way, which is nothing, pocket change to our ownership. Do it so that we can actually move forward and make sporting decision calls that aren't influenced from the other circumstances. That's where I'm going to be at, but time will tell. In terms of the players, we do have to get into player performances. The man of the match was Kolo Muani officially. Obviously, shouts for Di Gregorio. Guys, who did you have as your man of the match?
Well, I said earlier it can only be two,
Yeah.
either Di Gregorio or Kolo Muani. Everything
Yeah.
in between was just basically non-existent. Um, Kolo Muani is the obvious one, but I want to give it to Di Gregorio. He literally kept us in the match. Nothing you can do about the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't draw that one mainly because of him. The penalty was a fluke, and the rest, thank God we had him.
Lou, D grade for you or Colo?
It was D grade for me because I think that we could have easily been down 2-3 goals if it wasn't for him.
I ended up slight edge to Di Gregorio and kept us in it, overrunning us. And Kolo, I will say this, Como's keeper. He's awful. Yeah. That goal it went right over his head. Okay, like straight over his head. It was a bullet. It wasn't tight. Straight over his head.
Don't forget who his mentor was.
He had a shocking mistake. He had a shocking mistake earlier in that game, and he didn't get punished because it was Savona that was further up there. He didn't have the wheels to get to it to punish him. And then he ended up punching Gatti in the head completely late to give the winner. Like, I give the edge to Di Gregorio.
Who's the mentor? It's Pepe Reina, the guy who gifts a goal every match. So, I mean, they even got sick of him.
If Omer finds a way to get Pepe Reina into a discussion to shit on, it's happening.
What a guy. Oh,
it's happening.
Absolutely
now, we get to Lloyd Kelly's debut. We talked a lot about the substitution and everything. Guys, Lloyd Kelly. A lot of hate out there. A lot of hate out there.
Yeah, look, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. I barely blame him for that. I mean, that was an accident waiting to happen. Throwing him in there at halftime after one day of training, he played 14 matches, I believe, this season for Newcastle. I mean, you basically invited them to keep trying. Whatever didn't work with Savona, Strafezza was having a field day out there. You just allowed him to do the same. That was expected.
There was some just saying for sure better than Savona. Others saying not even better than Savona, worse than Savona. We had horrible, yikes, first showing, I know, but selling Huijsen is going to haunt us. Premature, a bit wobbly, but Savona was an accident waiting to happen. 5 out of 10. Pretty average as fuck.
I thought...
What's the return policy like? Not good. Horrible. Makes Savona look like a world-class wing-back. Wow. So, look, for me, it's just the first one. But I think even between him and Vega, they're trying to bring a little too much Premier League to us with the long ball crap. So, settle down. Get acclimated. Learn a few words in Italian. Might go a long way too, but I think the most disheartening thing, while you don't take much out of one game, the most disheartening thing for me was that I felt like he plays nothing to his stature. Like, the guy might as well have been a mouse, you know, and he's a big guy, but like, you're giving up aerial duels to Strafezza.
Stravezza gave him a nightmare over Stravezza. Literally, he came on the pitch and he was nutmegged by Stravezza like 5 minutes in. That was like the first thing that happened.
What's he gonna do with tall players in the box? Like, if he's got to play at center back, like he was losing aerials to Stravezza like nothing. And I'm just like, he's not. That's the part that was concerning for me out of the whole thing. The rustiness, all this, like whatever. I could deal with it. You got thrown into a crappy situation. I feel bad for you. But playing to your physical stature is something that should just be there. That part concerned me. But overall,
no,
it's just one game.
It looked like they picked someone out of the street.
Yeah.
Just come in, wear the shirt, be left back. It didn't seem like it was planned or rehearsed or whatever.
Yeah. Going back to Guido Vacciago before we get to Storm the Barn. I tell you guys all the time. This guy... This
is Berto's alter ego. That's what I'm convinced. Berto actually writes these articles.
Hey, if I did, I wouldn't be 2 weeks late with it because this guy's riding my coattails 2 weeks on the button all the time. And today, again, you get a wonderful post-game paragraph from Guido about the handling of Koopmeiners potentially being detrimental to the team. And obviously, he's alluding to favoritism. The way I alluded to it was Motta's word and words having less value or meaning when the meritocracy isn't there. How do you guys feel about the handling of Koopmeiners so far? Yesterday was an awful showing for him. It was an awful showing as a team. Can't be ignored. He was not the only one that looked awful. But is the handling incorrect and maybe having a negative impact on the group because of starts? Also something to just maybe put in the back of people's minds. Are players talking about it? Are they not? We saw a video about Vlahovic talking to Perrin about Gatti and shitting on Gatti while he's out there playing and having a horror show. But is the handling of Koopmeiners maybe detrimental to the group?
It's 100% detrimental. It goes back to, again, standards. Your coach sets a standard. Hey, there's no favoritism. You have to earn your spot. But there is a guy who is largely being punished by the coach because he's playing in a role at the 10 that he doesn't really understand or play well. They've destroyed his confidence, whatever is left, whatever was in it, right? And the performances aren't good. And if the performances aren't good, they're detrimental to your team. So not only are you losing your standard that you set, which is you earn your place, you have to work it in, but you're also killing the team and the player. So yes, it's detrimental. And I also think the one thing about this too, if you, for a player perspective for Koopmeiners, they play him 90 minutes every 3 days, like repeatedly. There's no break. There's no, hey, we're going to leave him on the bench. Like, you change something up a little bit. Maybe sometimes some of those players got to sit on the bench for a couple games. Like Vlahovic sits on the bench a couple games, comes in, scores a rocket. Like you kind of have to do that, right? To reinvigorate them, give them a little bit of a break.
Alberto's still angry about that shot.
But you know what I mean? So it's like, it's that is a thing. And then also yesterday, you bench a guy like Thuram who's playing really, really good. Or maybe yesterday was a game you could say, all right, Kefren, we're going to bench you because we need you for PSV. Maybe that was a game you played Douglas Luiz and try to get his confidence up a little bit. So yeah, you're hurting your team overall because you're playing a guy who's going to play another bad shifted, and you're hurting a guy who's playing really well, and you're hindering maybe an option where that might solve some of your problems down the line. So I'm sorry that's long-winded, but yes, it's hurting your team.
You believe it's detrimental. And Omer, your thoughts on it?
Hard to argue against that. Like, okay, in this bad period we're having since, I don't know, November, maybe even October, how many complaints have you seen here in the chat and on Twitter about Thuram?
None.
Barely none. Why? Because he brings his A game. Well, every time he puts his heart on the field, blood, sweat, and tears, whatever you want to use to describe his performances. That's why there's no anger towards him, even when we win or when he makes a mistake. So benching him now, just like Lou said, it is detrimental to the team because Thuram should be like, what have I done wrong? And I'm sorry. I know there's probably more pressure because of the price tag and agent or management or whatever to play Coop. But it makes no sense at this point. The guy needs to sit down.
My one thing and my one defense here of Mota, and yeah, I can, like I said, I can defend him even though I've got heavy criticisms of him, is that the follow-up will be crucial because you're going into the first leg against PSV. If you follow up this and Koopmeiners starts again, that is where you shoot yourself in the foot. It's because, okay, you can get away with, we're away. The points are critical. The points are important. We did get the 3 points, but he played not good whatsoever. He started. Your follow-up is what sets the tone because PSV in Champions League, when you know that one of your objectives is to reach that round of 16 for financial objectives for the group, that's going to be where the statement is made. If Koopmeiners starts that game, that is a major knock on any type of value to meritocracy at Juve.
On the other hand, I might see him starting Like if we're going to see the same lineup, exactly the same, Locatelli and Coop in the middle, Savona on the left, McKennie as the 10. I mean that that warrants at least a stern talking to by the management. It clearly doesn't work. You want to try him again at the 10? Fine, get McKennie. I would much rather have McKennie at left back right now and Coop at the 10 than anything else for this match.
This goes back. It's and Tony would laugh about this if he heard me talking about, because everything points back to the coach with me. But there is a really simple solution to getting all three players on the pitch at the same time. It's playing a 4-3-3. Have we seen a 4-3-3 this year? Never.
That number 10 doesn't work, period.
Listen, McKennie, I get it. He's undroppable. He's played really, really well. He's one of your leaders. He's been wearing the vice captain armband for how many games? Wore the armband again yesterday. You play a 4-3-3. You play Thuram. You play Koopmeiners. You play Locatelli. You put McKennie at left back. Problem solved. But the coach, he's too stubborn. He doesn't change it ever, and that's the problem. And that's the hindrance. Is it's counterproductive because Koopmeiners, you're not giving him a chance. You're not helping them out at all. You're throwing him out there and you're letting him on the pitch without giving him a chance.
That's it. I'm not even sure what the plan with him is anymore. Like, what does Motta want to see from Coop? What does he want him to actually do on the pitch? Does he want him to be a presence in the area? Does he want him to facilitate attacks and be a pass option? I have no idea what to expect right now.
I go back to the coach for a similar but slightly different reason than Lou, because I get the shouts for 4-3-3. 4-2-3-1 is not grossly different, right? For me, it comes down to roles, and the reason it falls back on Motta is because of game planning. At the start of the show, what did I say? You knew what Como was doing. We went over it. 5 across the mid, tight to the back line, no room. McKennie would not be the role even if you choose to play a 10. And even if you went with just playing them flat, I think out of the midfield, you would have still been lacking somebody to pull the strings. Be that ball retaining guy. Like, ball retention would be key in the middle. West doesn't scream ball retention to me in tight, like quick. Like, it's just, even Locatelli will struggle there. Thuram, fantastic for it. Thuram's fantastic at retaining the ball in the middle of the park and winning it. It's like he's not matching the roles to the game plan to who you're about to face. And going to Omer's point earlier on, in maybe not, almost like it's not the same Motta, because if you followed Bologna last year, it was actually one of the things he was strong at for the group he had. And it was only a group worth 31 million in wages. So I fail to believe that we don't have enough tools for him to come up with a proper game plan for what his opponent's going to bring.
He looks like, he reminds me a lot of when Sarri was our coach. He looked petrified. It was not the same guy. It was like, I can't screw this up. Like, and then the players would figure it out. That's the only difference here, is that, like, it's the same way where it's like Motta, he's on the sidelines. He's not figuring anything out. He's not trying anything. He's too afraid to take any risks. And he's not getting results because his players aren't Ronaldo and Dybala. That's the only difference. But it reminds me a lot of Sarri when he was here.
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty early, but how would you go into that Eindhoven match? After everything we said, formation, players, whatever.
That is one of the Storm the Barns, because we are going to get into it.
Cool.
So Swarit's got early thoughts in the UA PSV. I'm not at all confident and feel that PSV might school us. So let's get, how would you go into the game and what are your thoughts on it? Either one of you start us off.
Okay, so I would, you know what, Lou, go first. I need to think about it for a second.
I was just thinking about this, actually, so it's good timing, Omer. You kind of read my brain a little bit. I think when we played PSV the last time, right, PSV is a game that suits us, right? They're going to try to keep the ball. They're going to try to play it, try to come after us. So, again, you have to be ready for that first wave, right? But PSV will be very easy to take on the counterattack, which is what we did the first time against them. So I think what you would do is you would go front four, I think Vlahovic, McKinney, Conceição, Yildiz. I'd go Locatelli, Thuram in midfield, and then I would go. Ooh, that's the left back is the hard one there. Oh man, the back line is tricky here because I guess you kind of have to go. You go Viego, Gatti in the middle. Wea probably takes the right back. I don't trust McKinney in the left back in that game. So maybe you go back to Kelly. But I think from a game plan perspective in that game, that's a hard one because the back line is not having Cambiaso's question. For a game plan perspective, PSV is going to keep the ball. They're going to come after you. I think that you would have to hit them on the counter. And that's what we did the first time we smacked them, right? All of our goals came from the counter in that game. And for people asking why I mentioned Vlahovic in there, his record in the UCL has been very good. Serie A a little bit different, but in the UCL, it's been very good. And I think that's part of the reason he's been on the bench. That's just my opinion.
So we're at home for the first leg. I get shouts for Vlahovic, but they are currently already getting his seat personalized. Okay. I think he's going to be glued to it with Kolo coming in there red hot. But
have they found the medic?
For me,
were the police notified?
I'm going to go Di Gregorio will go in net. When it comes to right back and left back is where it gets tricky. Wea is going to have to be utilized. But yeah. Wea, he can be utilized. And I said this like when we were talking about positions over the couple of years with Wea, he's literally played up and down, left and right previously. I'd actually personally move him to the left side because of his pace, because that's what might hurt McKennie on the left side. On the right side, McKennie's actually more comfortable. I think it shows up in his play. I'd probably swap the two from just sides, but I think you have to use both of them at the back in this game. Savona, I'm just not quite sure he's anywhere near 100, and he's off the pace timing-wise. You can't do it. Alberto Costa will not be in the Champions League list. Malta had words with me at one of the training sessions, so I will not be available for that, okay? This thing is taking on new life, the amount of messages I get where it's like as if I'm actually this invested into this player. It's hilarious. I love it. But you got to utilize those guys. Gatti, Vega, middle of the pitch, without a doubt, Locatelli, Thuram. And from there, for me in this particular game, where it will be open, it is not going to be closed off. This is where you play a playmaker in there. And because of what I'm expecting out of PSV, I will not throw Yildiz in the 10. I would actually put the guy with a little more grit to his game because it's going to be more central, and it would be Gonzalez. And I would put Yildiz on the right, and I'd probably start with Mbangula on the left with Kolo Muani up top. I'm still starting Kolo because he's red hot. I don't think you go away from it, but that's how I would go into it. My confidence, well, that's a whole nother story, because what Juve is going to show up and at what time are they going to get there and show up. But that's how I'd line us up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Omer.
Are you writing this down? Listen closely. Di Gregorio in goal. Right back, McKennie. Gatti, Locatelli as center back, Vega as left back. Now I'm going Douglas Thuram as pivots, then Chico on the right, Nico in the center, and Bangula on the left, and Kolo as a striker. I'm benching Yildiz, I'm benching Wea, I'm benching Koopmeiners, definitely Kelly and Savona, with view to Inter on the weekend, which is also very important. But yeah, just to shift things up a bit. I don't know, try and what we have going right now ain't working.
That's why I think Kolo Muani sits in the midweek game because of Inter.
Swarit's got an interesting shout too, with even Kolo going out to the wing to try and do something a little bit differently and whatnot. A lot of these ones don't have Chico starting, whereas Omer does have Chico starting, and he's kind of like almost become a forgotten man. But yeah, Chico from the start or on tired legs. That's another thing you got to factor in. It's interesting, but we all have somewhat different views as to what we're going to do. What is Mota going to do? Let's wait and see. But we have, for the most part, the same benchings. So, hey, let's see. Let's see what happens. We're going to fire through some Storm the Barn here. We're running a bit of overtime here. Hypothetically, we can only sign one in the summer. Kolo Muani or Conceição. Who are you picking if you could only sign one?
Conceição.
Chico.
Right now, Chico.
Yeah, the price is better on Chico. We've seen a larger sample size.
Yeah, I mean, the template is already there. It's a mystery with Kolo, and that might add up. I mean, for Chico, we paid like 10 for the loan, and there's like 20 million remaining, right? Something like that. And with you have to negotiate with PSV. If he's having a good season, they'll ask for 40, 50. And look, guys, it's still very early. Very early. I mean, if he goes on a, just a streak of not scoring from now to the end of the season, then those 5 goals would mean nothing. So very early for that question. From what we've seen so far, definitely Chico for me.
If we would have seen more of Kolo at wing, to be like, man, winger and striker, like cooking, it's a little bit different. And right now, our game overall is leaving me to just be like, man, for me, he shows just how bad our team play is. Like, it's highlighted just with the addition of Kolo Muani, because he can make something out of nothing. Actually shows
just
me
some
just
more.
How
just
worse.
See some more games. 3 games.
It's a tough one. The devil's always in the details. But Chico right now, for me, is probably going to have the slight edge at the price and everything. So the details change. And again, like Omer said, if Kolo goes, if he goes cold now here on out, it's going to change. So 5 goals on 5 shots, though? Fuck.
I mean, you don't spend 40 million, let's say the minimum 40 million for.
I said this because I'm going to twist this now. I'll twist this now, but with 5 goals, he's our second leading goal scorer. 3 goals behind.
Yesterday.
This stat in 3 games, in 260-something minutes, he becomes our second leading goal scorer. That is equally awesome as it is terrifying and sad, all at the same time.
That was like a backhanded compliment in the stat.
That's how bad you are.
Yeah.
That stat kills me, man. Kills me. 5 goals, 5 shots, our second leading scorer, 260 minutes. My God, what does that tell you about balance in play that we've had?
But that's also an amazing stat, like 5 shots, 5 goals.
It's crazy.
If he doesn't play from now till the end of the season, he has 100% conversion rate.
We're going to wake up to the reports that Kolo Muani is retired on this hot streak because he'll never get better than this, and he's just done completely. What I wanted to twist this about, and the whole thing that's been kind of floating around now, Mirko Di Natale putting things out that it's, hey, Kolo, and I guess actually, it's technically 4 shots because 1 went off his shin, so he gets credit for a shot when it isn't a shot, but that's even more impressive. 5 goals, 4 shots. It can even hit him in the
leverage stats, yeah.
But
yeah.
So there's this potential background deal in the grand scheme of things with Kolo Muani. PSG has 67 million roughly still on the books for the guy, which also makes sense as to why we don't have an option in there right now. So the majority of the reports are suggesting a 1-year loan and then somewhere around 40, 45 to get the deal done. In the background, you also have his wage. His wage, which is around 9 million, which would be breaking our rules, so to speak. But we could probably make a 1 million adjustment, etc. So the question comes out, as you see, shell it out for Red Hot Kolo. Some are already saying, because we don't know how much can you trust a team when nothing's on paper? This guy could finish off red hot, be our leading scorer to finish the season by a landslide, and then be like, you know what? We actually want this, and now so-and-so has come to the table. We got to take the most that we can. It would be kind of shitty of PSG, but you could kind of also see it, because if another team comes in and offers more, they're entitled. Do you shell it out for Red Hot Kolo Muani? Some are already saying, bring him in.
I mean, how many players have we seen that had a red hot start and then cooled off and never came back? And I mean,
example of that.
You don't commit. Personally, I think you don't commit to like a 40, 50 million payment after 3 matches, no matter if he scored 16 goals in each match. I mean, that's insane. Sorry, that's a lot of money for too few games. I need to see more. The answer might change after 10 matches by the end of the season, but 3 games and that's it.
Some had to check their eyes to realize that it was actually Kolo.
Yeah,
well, that's excessive, but yeah.
Hey,
the Sallies were excessive too, so it's all good. Yeah. Victory.
I just want to add this. The moment we signed Kolo Muani, they said this in their chat, but like to me, that always looked like it was a deal to try to replace Vlahovic. Like that was it, right? That's too good of a player to just take on a 6 months loan. So yeah, like we may not see the paper where that's agreed, but I feel like if we have a smart director, it's gotta be there, right? Like it just like that had to be part of the detail, right? It's like, hey, like you get like at least like first negotiation on it or something, right? But there had to be something more.
And this came up in rating the Mercado yesterday, because it was like I said, my score is low now, but it could change going back to it if there's more on the backside. So you just have to wait. And the same goes with my answer for this, with shelling it out for Red Hot Kolo. Pump the brakes. Let's wait, because the devil's in the details. Right now, it's easy to say, bring them in and stay, but there's a lot of season left. A lot of season left, and things can change like that.
And what if Osimhen becomes an option? Like, because his name keeps circling around. I mean,
I'll be quite honest. I can already tell you that I wouldn't want to go the Osimhen route.
No, I wouldn't want to go there either, but a lot of people would, and I get why. He's a very good player. I mean,
a lot can change.
I get why, but yeah, tons can change.
We wait, we see, and but yeah, I wouldn't want to go the Osimhen route personally. And again, the devil's always in the details. We also said, like, if the price skyrockets, do we splash? Do we want to get into splashing again? It would obviously. We'd have to see how well things went from here on out. The start is absolutely electric, but
honestly, I tried to extend the loan for another season.
That would be the play: is get another 1 year loan and then look to finalize,
and then commit maybe to something.
Because then your price is also 45, and you're not screwed.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not splashing 60, 70, one shot, one go. It's like, okay, we got another loan. See what you can do. And then 45, it's like, okay, you can spread that out. It's a lot more reasonable. So we'll see. If we need money selling Dusan and Cambiasso, fine with me if they go. Shouldn't we sell Koopmeiners? Are we willing to give him another full season? Money talk. Okay, so let's just make the question, if Juve had an out, we wouldn't see capital on it for what we brought in. But let's say we could hit the reset button in the summer. We're in February now. Would you do it if there was a reset? I guess we can only answer based on now. If you had a reset on Koopmeiners, would you take it?
I still believe in Koopmeiners. No.
You're willing to give him another year?
Yeah. He and Douglas Luiz, to me, I think, because in my mind, I don't think the coach will last beyond this year. I don't. So I think that in another year, in another system, I think that both those guys could thrive. I think that a lot of Louise is kind of a weird case, but Koopmeiners to me, like if he's played correctly, I think could be a really good player. But a lot of the way we use him is the problem. And if you watch him on the international level, he still plays very well.
I think those issues stand for both players. I think they're valid for both players on usage. I mean, I love the comment earlier from Swarit that's like, it should be studied how bad Koopmeiners looks with us this year based on his 3 years running in Serie A, being at the top of the list of midfielders. Like,
you don't fall off that.
But the reset,
that's the thing.
which one surprises you more for the struggles, Louise or Koopmeiners?
It's
Oh,
Koopmeiners.
100% Koopmeiners. 100%.
Yeah,
Because he came from the league, and it
Exactly.
wasn't such a big shift like Luis.
Also, like Louise, like he came late. He had like a couple injuries. Like that's more the struggle than anything else. But like Koopmeiners, who was the journalist that said that it looked like they sent his twin brother who can't play football? Was that Mirko who said that?
yeah.
That's what it feels like. It's surprising how bad.
I think we got Cone Toepmeiners. We got like the Timu knockoff.
It's been this year.
It's crazy, but
you wouldn't convince me he's a bad player after the last 3 years.
yeah.
Where he shined. He's not a bad football player. Something about his utilization on the pitch just doesn't work. It can be fixed, maybe with a different coach, maybe with the same coach. Maybe he needs a specific player to kind of make it happen, like Marquisio needed Pirlo to really start shining. And maybe that's the case, but half a season.
We got a red hot one here from Mitch. Cambiasso attitude is a 0. Hate Dushan, yeah, but he is there available. Cambiasso doesn't give a shit about the team. Not even in the stadium for the 3rd time. Get the guy out. Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a bit too much, but I can see where he's coming from. There's a lot of little things about Cambiasso that I don't like.
I get a question. If you give the guy the captain's armband and then you try to sell him in January, would you give a shit about the team either?
But we didn't try to sell him.
I think we went from
everybody said across the board he was approached. He got a phone call.
Yeah, the approach yesterday was the question yesterday was that Gentili at the start of January was like, hey, this guy's immovable. He's a pillar of the team. We're not selling him. And then halfway through January, when they couldn't make any money off their other sales, they were like, no, now we want to sell him. And he was approached.
It was pretty clear, and amongst all the top guys, he was approached. Like Juve, it was always stated, will entertain for almost all their players if the thing's strong enough. But they were adamant, nobody's moving. I'm still looking at this guy like, you're 2 months removed from saying Juve's your Real Madrid, and you made an agreement on one phone call.
I don't know.
But to be fair to him, that's a huge offer.
For sure. $6 million a year, you're probably not going to get that with us
even
for
Juve.
quite some time.
Even for Juve, the money, I mean, that's an offer you
it makes
consider.
sense.
You don't
What I can't speak to is why he's not actually there. I have no idea why he's not actually at the stadium.
Just be as simple as the fact that like he's been carrying an ankle injury for a month and a half.
Yeah.
Does he need to be on the line? Like,
do all our guys? Because like I never pay attention to when the guys are injured, but like Kalulu wasn't there.
Yeah, Vlahovic wasn't there.
So Vlahovic was there yesterday, because he's back
injured
on the list. But I don't think he was there for all the games when he was injured too. Like they don't always travel with the team when you're hurt. Am I mistaken?
No, I don't think you're right.
So, yeah, I don't think this not showing up thing ties to the attitude. I could be wrong. If everybody travels when they're injured, great. Milik did travel to Poland. So
yeah, get rid of that guy.
We'll see. Swati, Como showed way more attacking prowess in 90 minutes than Juve has shown in the past 3 months. I don't think we need to get into thoughts, Swati. I mean, we were terrible yesterday. And to be
Look,
honest, like,
they were great against Atalanta too. Atalanta barely scraped through against them as well at home.
Como at home is a very
Como works hard. Como works hard. Like it's just, for me, it's this constant letdown that comes from a mentality that you're like surprised all the time. Remember when we got surprised by Stuttgart? And it was like, how do you not know that a team that's going to surrender in quality on paper isn't going to come out hard and like run at you and try to be physical? We knew the size of their team and that they were going to probably play physical and look to play a physical game. And we wanted to just pass around nonchalant, be slow as shit. It's like, how are we that unprepared? It's frustrating.
That's the frustrating thing about it. It doesn't seem like there's any preparation based on the team you're playing against.
Yeah. And Mark saying, Berto, we're surprised always, each game. And that's what, for me, goes to Motta and pisses me off about him. Di Gregorio will be seen as the biggest steal since Barzagli when his time at Juventus comes to an end. That was steal of the summer, and he even turned down Liverpool and a higher salary for us. Yesterday, the question came up of, do we have concerns around Di Gregorio? And I said flat out no. Di Gregorio was an absolute steal. And for the shit that Giuntoli gets, I still said there's some great pickups in there. Thuram, Di Gregorio, Kalulu is good at a multi-position player that you picked up for 17 mil. Like, it's the bigger ones that will always have that magnifying glass on them, and that'll never change.
Yeah, that I always ask myself, like, if you've paid for him 40, 50, 60 million, would my criticism be the same? Would I still view his season as a success? And with Di Gregorio, 100%.
Yes.
If he was bought for 40, I think it would have been worth it and justified it so far in the season.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of players get some flack, because if we bought Koopmeiners for 15 million, then maybe all of us would have sounded a bit differently here, talking about him, the expectations, what we want from him. But Di Gray absolutely was worth it. He was a steal, same as Thuram. But the price tag, it weighs heavily on the judgment of the players.
Yeah. We've got a ton more. We're just going to machine gun like two more and get into wrap up. We're going to go... We got one from Skanga. If you're given the title as manager, how do you balance Dušan's time from here to the end of the season? Do you think less playing time will hurt his sale value? It's a good question.
It has to.
My thoughts on this, I think we're reading into the benchings a little too much. That's just my opinion. Like, I don't think it's necessarily as typical as fans think. I think you are looking at a player that, like, there was no alternative for a very long time. So you put him on the bench, kind of refresh him a bit, try the new option. But I think we'll start to see, like, I believe he'll probably start on Wednesday. Between Wednesday and Inter, one of those games. And I think that is the plan from Motta's press conferences, is to alternate between them. So I think they'll switch between the two of them from now to the end of the season.
I got this feeling, and I said this a while ago, that I feel like it's one of the things the team is struggling with. While we can't have as big a focus on the sporting matters for decisions because of the finances, it also creates issues where it's kind of easier for guys to check out. You know what I mean? Like, we know that if a certain number comes in for certain guys, we're going to be moving them out. That creates a difficult scenario for a team and even an individual, any player for that matter, to work through. Because it's like, it's hard to get as invested as we always require from all these guys and want all these guys to be. And when and like Vlahovic, it's not for all the guys, but Vlahovic is 100% there. We've known for a while where this thing is probably headed. I'm surprised this season wasn't as bad for him as it could have been. I'll be quite honest. Like, it's a tough thing when you have that looming in the background, and
it just feels like it happens too much.
like that.
It feels like it happens too much. Not only this season, like guys are checking out. I mean, there are still professional footballers who get paid a lot
And
of money
that's
by
where
the
it has to
club.
come to, is that you're a professional.
Yeah, I mean that kindergarten mentality of, "Ooh, if I'm not playing, I'm not giving 100%." That's childish, and you're all grown men who get paid a lot of money to perform week in, week out. I don't.
And I'm not speaking to the benching. I'm speaking to just the contract issues. And we've had Giuntoli took over a team with very few assets, and the ones that were the young guys. So he gets shit on for getting rid of young talents, which are the guys bringing in the profit. And meanwhile, he's got one of the nastiest contracts in Dusan Vlahovic. And for Vlahovic, it's like, it's coming to an end. It's an easy situation for him to check out on. But yes, ultimately, you're a professional. You got to get the job done. But it's another element.
You need people in your locker room to like grab a player like that and be like, "Hey, get your head out of your ass. Like, you're a professional." Dusan's supposed to be that guy because of age, right? Because everyone we keep bringing in is under 28 years old, right? There's no one there. That's the difference. That's the problem.
And this ties into leadership as a whole and the contract scenario and that much turnover. At some point, you got to lock in with certain guys as well to get that. Because if you're looking to Vlahovic to be one of those heads, but he ain't even going to stick around and his situation is bleak in terms of future, then that's a problem as well. So it just shows you how much we're actually dealing with as a club right now. It's very difficult.
Where the frustration comes from? It's the same thing. Lukaku and Vlahovic feels kind of the same like Lukaku. Like, he brings his personal life into the match all the time. There's always a message in the celebrations. And those some hand marks towards I don't know if it's the management or whatever, but it's a bit childish for me. I don't like that about Lukaku, and I don't like that behavior about Vlahovic.
Yeah. We're gonna finish up with just two last ones. One quick one is if we sell Vlahovic in the summer and can't buy Kolo Muani for a reasonable price, who would you guys like the club to go for? Strikers at thin these days. So,
one. I know. Benjamin Sesko, period.
Yeah, he was going to be on my list. Sesko. Him or Osimhen.
We got Castro. We got Seshko. Osimhen. Retegi. Man, 30 mil back in the summer. Damn, if we could have got 30 million for Atalanta, like Atalanta did, I would have liked Retegi. No shouts for Gyökeres anymore? Is he done?
It just doesn't
seem reasonable.
I don't think we can afford it. Moist Keane. That would be like the...
But the Timo version, Moist Keane, right? Yeah, so not the actual one.
The
get,
rapper.
Get the Timo version. I'm happy with Seshko for sure. Mitch, honestly, how many guys are Juve material on the current roster? Like Scudetto winning material.
Okay, so let's say we leave out all the youngsters who were far from their prime. Like, I can't count Ildiz yet. He's a 20-year-old kid. And Bangula. Let's talk about the guys over 22, 23. I think it's Bremer, Di Gregorio, Locatelli, maybe. The rest are kind of remains to be seen. Like Chico and Nico and all those guys, they still have a lot to prove. A lot.
Yeah, it's few.
Yeah.
I kind of actually disagree with this because even the young guys, here's the thing. The young guys, they're playing international football. Like Renato Viega has capped 20 times for Portugal. He was at the Euros, right? Like
but he just came in. I mean, I can't completely judge him yet.
No, but the question is if the roster is good enough to compete for the Scudetto. Like that's what essentially what that question is. Our roster is really good. Tino Koopmeiners was the best midfielder in Serie A last year. Douglas Luiz was one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, which know we hate to say this because everyone hates the Premier League, but objectively, it's probably better overall. Like it just
I said
is.
this, so this question came up yesterday too that said, I'm sure that, and it wasn't a question, it was a comment on one of the daily update videos, and it just stuck with me, and it said, I guarantee you the majority of Juve fans would sacrifice winning to see the players they love remain at the club and watch them play. We were all unanimous, like, hell no. Mm-hmm. One of the things we did was fall in love with guys we maybe didn't expect to because of their contributions to the winning seasons. This kind of ties into that because you've got a lot of guys over many, many years for me. Yeah, I'm old as shit. A lot of guys that were really nothing signings or whatever that came in that fulfilled a role that made me love them and become attached to them for their contributions. So to just say this Juve material, etc., I mean, maybe you have a little bit too much of young, but still Juve material, because even in some of those squads, you had your young contributions, you know?
Yeah.
When Moise Kean come in, Max Allegri played him 6 games. He scored 6 goals, contributed in that season. That whatever, small or big. It's like right now, Thuram should be considered that player for because of his consistency. McKennie is a prime utility guy that we always had in a Scudetto winning year. The other guys, based on the performances they came from, should be to Juve's caliber, putting up the numbers they have with the performance they have. I think we are taking the results and also dumping on the guys and the play that we're seeing as a team, and maybe undershooting a roster that should be much better.
But there are other elements too. Like if you'd ask me back in the day, is Peluso, De Celje, Giaccherini, or even Simone Pepe are like Scudetto material? I would probably say no. Conte made it work the same way he made it work with Victor Moses in Chelsea or Ashley Young. I mean, the coach can compensate on player deficiencies. You don't need to have a world-class player at every position on the pitch to win.
No, of course not.
I agree, and but also like just in terms of our roster, like these younger players, like Conceição is like he's a sensational talent. Like he went to the Euro, scored a goal at the Euro, right? You're gonna tell me that he can't be a player that's on a team competing for the Scudetto? Like Nico Gonzalez was a very good player last year, like, and he's not even like a regular starter, right? Like these are good players.
It's I mean, if we, and this is, if you're looking at Napoli's roster right now, which is on the verge of making a Scudetto run, are we going to look at them and say how many guys are Juve material on that roster? But here they are playing good football and on the verge of doing something great. So all I got to say is great question, Mitch. And the thoughts are, again, for me, mostly we're underperforming big time. Big time.
100% agree.
Yeah,
we could be
big time.
A lot better.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And it's always been one of these things around Juve. Like, we're not the team that goes out there that buys all the guns and everything. It's like, this is one of the things I thought was the whole point of bringing in Thiago Motta in the first place. Cheaper guy, able to get the most out of what he has. But we're not seeing it, and that's the biggest issue because we need that. We got into trouble trying to become one of the Goliaths when we were great as David. Always great as David, and we lost ourselves. So we got work to do. Look, yesterday wasn't pretty, but the win, the 3 points, it is pretty in the table because we got a battle on our hands. Now we got to shift focus to Champions League, okay? And I will be bringing a watch along for the Champions League, okay? I skipped this one, and honestly, I'm actually happy I chose to work and make a little bit of extra cash after how that one played out, and probably would have been kicked off or banned YouTube for the swearing. So probably a good thing. But we're going to get back to things heading into Champions League. Yes, I'm going to bring you your news updates leading up to that one. We will have Match Day Live, and then, of course, the watch-along. Guys, great session. Lou, you got to come on here more often, brother. My God, it's always great having you on. Great takes, level-headed, can get fired up too, which I always love and appreciate about you, all right? And we all have to show our love and appreciation to how much work this guy puts in for the news on our social media outlets, all right? So big props to Lou. And of course, everybody behind the scenes. Omer is one of them. Lucci, Luca, Skanga. And yeah, much love for everything you put into it, brother. Omer, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, man. All right.
Always a pleasure.
Great having you boys on. And let's hope for more victory shows and just a little bit more convincing. Let's get that done on Tuesday with PSV. A victory and convincing. Let's aim for that. At the end of the day, it's where it stands and where it stood for a while. We have work to do. Heads down, boys, and push forward. As always, no matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juventus. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new here. Ciao tutti. Take care.